Hi, and welcome to Noble Character Crafts. My name is Amy, and I am coming to you from eastern Nebraska, where I live with my husband and our 5 children. Today is Friday, September 3rd, 2021. A huge welcome to any new or returning viewers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you really enjoy this episode. This channel is all about my crafty life, and today I have knitting, crocheting, and cross stitch to share with you all. You can find me online on Instagram and Etsy at Noble Character Crafts, and you can get in contact with me through my email at noblecharactercrafts@yahoo.com. I will have links to the places that you can find me in the description box below, as well as the show notes for this episode. I am hosting a year-long make-along on Instagram called the Make 9 2021 Mal, and that is for you to join in the Make 9 challenge, where you choose 9 projects that you would like to make this year. I will put a description and with all of the details for this make-along in the description box below if you would like to find out more about that make-along, but just know that you can join in at any time throughout the year, and it is just a participatory make-along, so you do not need to you don't need to finish anything off of your Make 9 list. It's just for fun. So please don't hesitate to continue to join in, even though we are in the second half of the year now. So I would love to see any of you joining in. I have a few finished objects to share with you all. I was able to finish another pair of these beautiful Christmas socks. I was able to knit these out of some sock yarn that I received in a swap that I did with Anna of Anna Knitter. This is a German yarn called Wollboot Christmas Wonderland, and I absolutely love this one. I received 3 skeins of yarn from her in the swap that we did, so the Wollboot Christmas Wonderland yarn comes in a 3-pack, and so I was able to use the 3rd skein that I had from her to make these. It was color number 6643. I cast on 64 stitches using a US 0.2mm needle, and I did a 1x1 rib for about 20 rows. I'm not exactly sure if I was right on 20 rows, but I probably just switched when I got to the brown stripe there. I switched to the broken rib pattern. So after I did the 1x1 ribbing, I switched to a 3x1 broken rib pattern. So I knit 3, purled 1 for 1 round, and then knit this next round, and I repeated those 2 rows throughout the leg of the sock. I did a slip stitch heel flap and gusset, and then I just continued the broken ribs pattern on the top of the foot and did plain stockinette on the bottom of the foot until I got to the sole, or the ball of my foot on the sole, where I did another slip stitch detail to hopefully prevent getting holes in that part of my socks. I did a rounded toe and Kitchener the toe shet. I knit these 2 at a time like I always do with my socks, and they're pretty well matching, so I'm super happy with those. I just love this yarn so much. It is so beautiful. It is 73% wool, 24% polyamide, and 3% polyester. So I'm very, very happy to have finished these, and now I have 3 pairs of socks in this beautiful yarn. I want to show them all to you. I have them stored in this cute little Christmassy box, so I thought that was appropriate. So here are the first pair that I made. They're not very pristine anymore, but I really love them. I knit these at Christmas time last Christmas, and I just knit these in plain stockinette with a heel flap and gusset again, but I just used a scrap of bare gold stellina yarn that I had in my stash. But these are really great as well. Let's see, for these I did a 2x2 ribbing, but otherwise they're the same as my normal socks. I had included the slip stitch detail and rounded toe and everything. And then these you saw recently. I finished these pretty recently, and I followed a pattern by Dana Ray for these called the Stacked Circles from her Textured Socks 3 Ways pattern. So now I have these 3 Christmassy socks to enjoy for the upcoming holiday season, and I'm so happy to have them. I've never had Christmas socks before these. So these are really like my first Christmas socks I've ever made. So I absolutely love them. I think they are so fun. And I was able to finish another pair of socks. I love these as well. And these are another pair of plain vanilla socks. So just plain stockinette for the majority of these socks. I again cast on 64 stitches using a US 0 2mm needle. And I did a 2x2 ribbing for these. The main color that I used for the yarn is Knit Picks Stroll in the Raven Tonal colorway. That's a 75% superwash merino wool, 25% nylon fingering weight base. And then I used, for these stripes, I used up the leftovers, most of the leftovers that I had from my daughter's socks that I recently finished for her. This is Knit Picks Felici in the Goth Kitty colorway. So I just did one color stripe repeat after I finished the cuff, and then just knit for about 1.5 inches or 2 inches maybe before I started the slip stitch heel flap. And then again just added that slip stitch detail to the ball of the foot as well. Otherwise they're knit, you know, the same as the other pair. But I love how these turned out. I think they're so much fun, and it was really great to be able to use up some more of that Felici yarn. So I think I will try to remember that in the future when I have a little bit of Felici left over, just to make another pair of socks with those stripes up at the top. I think it's a really fun addition to some socks and a great way to use up a little bit more of that Felici yarn that's left over after knitting a pair. I usually have a little bit left over, so I'll have to try to remember that for the future because I think that's really fun. So two pairs of socks done. That is a great feeling to have those done. And this morning I finally finished all of the stitching on my cross stitch that I've been working on for so long. This is a kit that I bought at Walmart, and it is by Dimensions. It's called Be a Light. It comes with the Aida cloth. It's a 14 count Aida cloth and all of the thread that you need for this kit. And I really am so happy with how it turned out. I will put a picture in here of where I was the last time I recorded a video so that you can see what I needed to do to finish this one up, and you can compare where I was last time I recorded. And then I also decided to add my initials down here in the corner along with the year. And in this corner I decided to add Matthew 5:16 because it just goes so well with the saying on here, be a light to the world. So in Matthew 5:16, it says, "In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." So I just thought that was kind of a fun addition to this cross stitch to add the Bible verse in that really is quite a great reference for this saying on here. I just love how this turned out. I really love this design. I love the negative space here where the leaves show up. This is the first cross stitch. Really, this is the first what I consider significant cross stitch that I've ever finished. I've done a few, well, I mean, I guess I shouldn't really say that because I did a sampler once when I was in my early 20s. I don't know what happened to it though. I don't have it anymore, but it was a pretty big sized piece. It was much larger than this piece, but it wasn't all, like this isn't completely all over color work, cross stitch, but you know, it's a pretty well covered piece. There's a few empty spaces, of course, but I just feel like this is, the other piece that I did was a sampler, and so it had like the alphabet and numbers, and it had a few little people and maybe a house or plants, flowers, but it wasn't covered with thread. And then I also did a Christmassy one that I do still have, but it's up with my Christmas stuff. I'll try to show you sometime if I don't think I've ever shown that on an episode before, but it is another kind of a sampler. It just goes through the alphabet, and then it says Yule, I think, or something like that on it, and it has some Christmas lights. It's just pretty sparsely cross-stitched on it, And so it wasn't very difficult to do, I don't think. It was a really fast one, I know. Anyway, this one I feel like is more advanced, I guess, or it took a lot more time, that's for sure. I am not sure. I ordered a frame for this. This is a 5x7 piece. The actual cross stitch is a 5x7 piece. I ordered an 8x10 frame that has a 5x7 mat, so I'm hoping that that will work. It hasn't come yet. I ordered it through Amazon and it hasn't arrived yet. I may need to move my initials and the Bible reference down here to be up in the actual stitches somehow. I'm not sure if that will get cut off because this is actually 5x7. I stitched that on this morning and then I measured it because I was like, oh, I wonder if that's going to work with the mat that I ordered, and it might cut it off. I'm not sure how that will work. I could maybe cut off a little bit of the top maybe to make it fit, but I'll see. I mean, it was super easy and fast to stitch that on there, so I can easily rip that out and move it to somewhere else where it will show up in the frame. But I'm just so happy with that. I'm really, really happy with how it turned out, and I'm really happy that I persevered through it because there was definitely a few times when I was not feeling it. I was not super motivated to work on this, and I did put it down for a few weeks, but I over the long haul, I was pretty faithful in trying to stitch on this a little bit each morning. So that, in the end, got me through. And some people asked if I am planning to do any more cross stitch. I'm not planning on doing any more right away. I may in the future. I actually just got, I'll show you, this book from our local thrift store. And it's a bunch of cross stitch patterns of state birds. And I think it's really funny that on here there's an old sticker that says it's from Target for $4.49. I have never known Target to sell craft supplies, so that's so funny. I never knew that Target ever sold craft supplies, but I got it for 75 cents at the thrift store. It has some beautiful, I think this shows all of them. So it has, there's a lot of fun ones in here. I love the cardinal, the goldfinch, the chickadee, the northern flicker, the robin, the pheasant, even the meadowlark is the Nebraska state bird, and the goldfinch is the Iowa state bird, which is where I'm originally from. So it'd be fun to do a few of these. So I just picked that up, and I'm not sure when or if or how many I'll ever do, but I couldn't pass it up because I just love birds so much. If you've watched my channel before, you might know that I really love bird watching. And now that I have a bit of an interest in cross stitch, I thought I couldn't pass this up for 75 cents. It was such a neat book. I wonder what the date on it is. 1984. So yeah, that's a good classic. So those are all of my finished objects. I'll probably show off my cross stitch, hopefully next time framed. It will be all completely finished. I'm not exactly sure where I'm going to hang it in our house, but I'll find a good spot for it. Okay, on to my works in progress. Oh, I forgot. I wanted to show you that I still have tons of the, quite a good amount of the thread left over from the kit. It's a tangled mess, but still there's quite a bit of thread left over, so they were definitely generous enough with the thread that they provided in the kit. Okay, my first work in progress is being held in this autumnal bag that I made last year, I believe. It says, leaves are falling and autumn is calling. And then on this side it says pumpkin spice and everything nice got cut off, but that's okay. And in here is the Vertices Unite shawl that I am knitting for my dear friend Tina. And I am knitting this as a type of prayer shawl for her. I just love, while I'm making gift knits, if I know who they're going to, I love praying for that person while I knit on them. So that's what I've been doing with this project, which I have really enjoyed. Last time I recorded, I was right there where that beautiful progress keeper is marking. This progress keeper is from Tracy of Grizzly Knits. And if you aren't familiar with her, she's up in Canada, and she also has a wonderful podcast that I highly recommend. And she sells beautiful progress keepers like this one. She gifted me this one, and I absolutely love it, and I just thought it went so perfectly with this project. So last time I recorded, I was right there, and I have continued to knit on this. This is just the first section of the shawl, the first of 5 sections, I believe. And it's just easy garter stitch stripes. You can see I have started a little bit of different shaping here. So I have gotten to the point where I am now decreasing. So I got to this point right here, and now you can see I've started decreasing on this side, and I've stopped increasing on this side. So this side has started to straighten off a little bit, and this side is angling in. So this section will finish off at a point, and then I'll move on to section 2. The colors that I'm using, this is all my own hand-dyed yarn on a 70% superwash merino, 30% silk base. So these are the 2 colors I'm using right now, just a solid gray and this kind of a burnt orangish brown color. And then the other colors I'm going to be using are already getting kind of messed up in their cake state, but this is a light gray color that is speckled with burnt orange and charcoal. You can probably hear my boys outside playing. They're riding their bikes on the driveway. Oh, this one is just a bear. This is just a bare yarn for another contrast color, and then the 5th color I'm going to be using was actually the same as this one, and I overdyed it with some like a sandy brown color. So it also has the specks of burnt orange and charcoal in it. And these cakes are really getting messed up in the bottom of my project bag. They're not as neat as they were when I originally wound them up, but anyway, I'm really enjoying this project. It's very simple, you know, it doesn't take a lot of mind power, so I've been able to stitch on this happily without, you know, it's just an easy project. I'm using the recommended needles, which are US 4 3.5 millimeter needles, and all of the needles that I use are Chaogu red lace. My next work in progress is being held in this huge basket that I got at another thrift store. I love thrift shopping, and I always look for baskets because they're so inexpensive at a thrift store. I am knitting through this, crocheting through this fun book that I received from Knit Picks recently. And here you can see like my tally marks. I'm keeping track of which colors I'm using and how often to kind of disperse the colors evenly. Anyway, this is a beautiful crochet kaleidoscope book by Sandra Ng, and it has 100 different motifs in here that range from squares, hexagons, different floral shapes. There's some circular shapes in here as well, and a few different patterns that are also included. And I have gone through the square motifs that are provided in this book, and I am crocheting. I originally told you last time that I was going to crochet 14 different motifs into a baby blanket. I figured that I could make a nice size baby blanket out of 20 squares. I'm going to do 4 by 5. And so I only needed 6 more motifs, and after working up several of these squares, I've figured out that it's pretty easy to make them all the same size just by adding, there was quite a few squares that were smaller than what I wanted, but I can just add on to them really easily. There's also a few squares that I have decreased in size as well. So I showed you last time that I had started with 3 squares, and those were these. I showed them on my last episode. This was the very first square that I made, and so I'm just using this as my guide to know how big I want each square. So I'm comparing each square to this one to hopefully make them all matching. This one measures 6 inches square. Now the book calls for you to use DK weight yarn and a G hook, and I am using worsted weight yarn and an H 5mm hook instead. So my squares are turning out a little bit larger than what hers are. So this originally was only supposed to be 5 inches, but since I'm using thicker yarn and a larger hook, mine measures 6 inches square. So I want all of my squares to be 6 inches. And so there's several squares in here that I've chosen that are less than 5 inches originally, and I'm just adding on a few extra rounds if needed. I can just kind of lay the square that I've made on top of this one, and I've kind of learned now through trial and error how much space, whether it is a single crochet, a half double crochet, or a double crochet stitch, to enlarge the squares as needed to make them be 6 inches so that they match this size. I'm using 8 different colors of yarn. Let's see, I'm pretty sure that there is a square that I've made since last time that has all 8 colors in it, so I'll go through them when I show one of those. But you've already seen these 3 from last episode, so I'll go through all of the new ones. I've pretty much, I think there was only one morning where I did not make a square, maybe 2 mornings, but I've tried to make a square each morning. So as part of my morning crochet / knitting time. So here is one that I really like, but I wasn't a huge fan of making this one. I have to say that the directions in this book, there's quite a few errors I've noticed. There's quite a few times when there's just some errors that I've noticed. So, and this one was a bit confusing. For example, she says to start with color A, and then she says to switch to color B, but I don't think you were supposed to. I think you were supposed to stay with color A. And she said to crochet over your tail for color B. So I did that. And then when I got to the other side, my color B yarn was on the wrong side. And so I had to undo it and not crochet over that yarn so that I could have it when it came back. Anyway, I mean, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm making some mistakes, but there's just been a few times when things have come up. For example, a lot of times she uses an asterisk to say, you know, repeat this thing. And there's been a couple of times where there's no asterisk, like it says repeat from the asterisk, and there's no asterisk that marks where you're supposed to repeat from, for example. So anyway, it's probably not the best book for a new beginner, but all of the squares have a lot of similar design aspects to them. So if you're familiar with making squares, you can probably figure it out in a lot of cases. But anyway, I just wanted to mention that there are a few mistakes that I've noticed. Anyway, I could go through which one is which, but I'm not going to tell you which number they are. They're numbered in the booklet, but I don't think I will. Here's another one. I love this one. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, I don't have all 8 in this one. Oh, I love this pinwheel one though. I think that's so fun. Those post stitches always are so much fun to work up. Here's another fun lacier looking one. This one is really pretty too, I think. Well, I think they're all pretty. There is this one little spot on this one that I can't quite get that to lay right. The lighter color just kind of peeks through right there, but that's okay. Anyways, did I finish my statement about how I don't think I did. Originally, I said I was only going to make 14 different motifs and I was going to repeat 6 of them to make a total of 20. But I decided that it's really easy to make the motifs larger. Therefore, I went through and picked out 6 more motifs that were smaller, and I'm just going to enlarge them. I don't think I finished my thought on that. I'm sorry. So anyway, I now have picked out 20 different motifs, and so this baby blanket is going to have 20 different squares, which I think is going to be so much fun. I absolutely love this one. I think this is maybe my favorite one of all of the squares. This is a puff stitch. And there's another one in this stack that has this puff stitch in it that I also really love, but I think this is my favorite. I just love how that looks. So cute, especially with the green here to look like the leaves around the flower. I think that's so much fun. This one I know has all 8 colors in it, and I love the texture of this one too. It was a little bit fiddly to do all these, this has front and back post stitches in it, so it was a little bit time consuming. I know that this one I wasn't able to finish in the morning of the day that I started this. I had to finish it in the afternoon because it was quite time consuming. Okay, but the colors that I'm using, this main color, the purple color, is Knit Picks Brava in the Mulberry color, and I have the most of that color, so I'm using that to border each of the squares. I also have some more of the Brava. The green color is called Avocado. The dark gray is called Cobblestone Heather. This really light blue in here is called Clarity, and the center color is called Tidepool. Now there's also a light gray, which it's really hard to differentiate the light blue from the light gray, but maybe it's easier on this one. Probably not so much, but this one has the center of the light blue, which is Clarity. And then I also have this yarn that is a light gray, and that's Loops and Threads in the classic gray colorway. Oh, I'm sorry, Loops and Threads Impeccable yarn in the classic gray. And then I also have this light turquoise color is Baby Bee Soft and Sleek in this Seafoam Marled colorway. And then the light purple color is Plymouth Yarn Jelly Beans, and the color is number 1308. Here it is in the skein, well, what's left of the skein, but you can kind of see the marled pink and light blue throughout this skein, which is super fun. This was a yarn that I got from my friend Tina as well, and this is the only one that is not 100% acrylic. This one is 75% acrylic and 25% wool, that light purple color. I think that is all of them. Yes, that's all 8 colors. Okay, this one, I love how it turned out, but I totally made a mistake on it. I don't know what I did wrong. Let me see if I can find a good picture of it. I don't want to show the actual pattern page because I'm afraid I'll show off the instructions, but I guess I will because I don't know where else I can find it in here. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it's not a full picture, but you can kind of get an idea that this square is supposed to turn out like this, where it's very squared. You kind of get an idea of what that's supposed to look like. And mine turned out completely skewed. I don't know what I did wrong. There's an instruction, but I like it. I think it's super cool looking. I love how it's like skewed like that. I think it turned out cool. Anyway, there's an instruction in this one that I'm gonna look it up now because I kind of forget. I don't even remember which number it is, so it might take me a minute to find it. There it is. Okay, it's number 53 just for reference. And the instructions say to do an half double crochet in the third loop of each of the next 4 stitches. Okay, and in the notes for this pattern it says the third loop of the half double crochet utilized in this pattern is located on the back of the post of the stitch. It is distinct from the front and back loops of the stitch. I don't know. I didn't quite understand where I was supposed to be putting my hook, obviously, because I didn't put it in the right spot, because mine turned out like this and it wasn't supposed to be. But I'm not mad about it because I think it's super cool. But I really don't know where I was supposed to put my stitch. I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. I might tackle it again sometime, but like I said, I'm happy with how it turned out. So anyway, okay, moving on. Here's my next one. I also love this one. I love the texture of that. This is called a slanted puff stitch, I think. You do it around the post of the stitch from before, I think, if I remember right. It's kind of a cool technique. There's another one. This one was kind of fun because when you're working it, you know, you start with this square and then you turn it on its angle and it becomes more of a diamond shape in the middle. It's just a fun one to work up. Here's the other one that has the floral puff stitch in it, and I love how this one turned out too. I really like the puff stitch, and I think it will be fun to have a few really textured squares in this baby blanket. Here's another one that's a little bit more simple. And this last one I did this morning. This one has popcorn. Is that right? I keep getting the popcorn stitch and the puff stitch mixed up. These popcorn stitches I don't think turned out quite very well either. Okay, no, I'm sorry. The floral ones are a popcorn stitch. This is called a puff stitch. And they're not as puffy as the picture shows, I don't think. Let's see if I can find this one easily. Should be perhaps kind of easy. Here it is. So here is the one that I just did, and you see how much puffier her stitches are. I must have just done mine a little bit too tight, because mine turned out just a little bit smaller looking, I guess. Oh, but this is a good example of one. This original pattern was supposed to be 4 inches, and the other ones that I'm doing, the original one that I did was 5 inches in the original pattern. So this one was an inch smaller in the original pattern. So you can see that the original pattern ended where this green color ended. Can you see that? And so I just added a round of double crochet and a round of single crochet in order to get it to the 6-inch square shape or size. But that's just been really easy to adapt the patterns to make them the right size. So those are all of the squares I have so far, which means I have how many left? I don't think I have very many left. I only have to do 5 more squares in order to get, so I have 15 done so far, I believe. And so I'm gonna do the 5 other squares, and I'm gonna arrange them and figure out how I'm going to attach them to one another, and then do a border around the outside. So I'm super excited about that. I'm really enjoying working on those squares, and it's been fun to learn some new stitches and to try to figure out how to make all the different stitches and different techniques that she's included in some of these motifs. So that's been fun. My last 2 works in progress are 2 new pairs of socks that I have started. The first one, I'm holding this cute little Christmassy bag type thing, basket type thing. I got this from the place where I used to work as a Christmas gift. My old boss embroidered this on this bag, my initial. So that's kind of fun. And in here, I'm so excited about these socks. I had 55 grams of scraps left over from my 3 pairs of socks that I made using the Wool Boot Christmas Wonderland yarn. And I wanted to use those up to try to make another pair of socks. So I also had just 1 mini of bare yarn in a gold stellina base. And then I had all of these minis. Oh, I also had a few scraps that I received because Anna from Anna Knitter and I exchanged the full skeins of the Wool Boot yarn, and I sent her some Patton's Croy yarn. But then we also did an advent swap where we exchanged 10-gram minis last Christmas. And in some of my 10-gram minis, she had included some more minis of Wool Boot yarn. So I had some of those, and then some of the scraps from my socks that I had made to equal 55 grams, and then I had 20 grams of this bare yarn. So I was going to I'm trying to make a pair of socks using up all of that yarn. So I was trying to figure out how I could do that in order to use up all of this yarn, and I decided the best way would be to knit these socks from the toe up. I haven't knit a ton of toe up socks. I'm not a huge fan of toe up socks. My favorite pair of socks that I have made from the toe up, they fit me so well, and I've gotten a lot of use out of them. They are showing it right now. I'm trying to make them look as pretty as possible, but they've just kind of been obviously not very well folded in my sock box. because they're very well crinkled up here. But these are the Sweet Bee socks by Jooles Hall of So Sweet Violet. Is that right? Jooles Hall? I might be wrong on that. But you guys know who Jooles is, don't you, from So Sweet Violet? Anyway, I knit these socks several years ago when this pattern first came out. And in this pattern, she has the beanie toe and the Godet heel. And I remember that it was so easy to knit these socks. The pattern for the Godet heel is such an easy pattern, and it fits my high instep really well. So I just remembered that this was a really great pattern. And so I decided to follow her instructions for the beanie toe and the Godet heel to make my pair of Scrappy Christmassy socks. And so that's what I've done. And that way I just thought I could use up all of this yarn. So I cast these on again 2 at a time. And again, I'm using US 0.2mm needles for these. I started with the bare yarn to do the toes. And then I also included my slip stitch detail on the ball of my foot for quite a few inches. I never measure it. I just put it on my foot and see if it's covering up the ball of my foot to know where to put that in my socks. I am just randomly grabbing the scraps of yarn that I have in my stash. So they are completely not matching, but of course these yarns go so well together that it works. There was actually such a random section right here. You can kind of see where the yarn was actually matching. Can you see how this right here, I think I started with this green stripe, the white stripe, the red stripe, and then this speckled section. It even went into this green part. They were exactly matching. I was like, how in the world did that happen? It was so random. So I've just finished the heels on these socks. You can kind of see how that is shaping. The slip stitch detail on the ball of the foot really makes the sock sit goofy, but on the foot it fits me really well. Anyway, you can kind of see how the heel is shaping here, but I've just finished all of the decreases and the heel turn. I'm sorry, no, I did increases, of course, for the gusset area, and then I did the heel turn, which included decreases. So now I'm back to the original stitch count, and I can just knit through the leg and the cuff. I don't have a ton of yarn left over. I don't know if I'll be able to show you. So I don't have a ton in here. I just have a few little balls, and then I'm gonna use the plain yarn for the cuffs. I can probably just grab these little tiny bits. But there's not a ton left, so these are probably gonna be pretty short in the leg. This is all I have left. This little bit, there we go. So they probably won't be very long, but that's okay. I have, you know, a good chunk of this color. I haven't measured it again, but I started off with a total of 75 grams. So, which seems like it should be enough to make a pretty good size sock, but I like my legs pretty long, so I'm sure they're going to be shorter than what I normally do. And that just seems like so little yarn left for the legs, but we'll see. I'm just going to go as much as I can. We'll see how they turn out. I am so excited about these socks though. I just love how they are not exactly matching, and I absolutely love that I'm able to use up as much of this yarn as I possibly can. I don't want any of this gorgeous yarn to go to waste, so I'm so excited that I'm able to make another pair of socks using this yarn up. My last work in progress is being held in this really cute bag that I received in a swap quite a few years ago, but I absolutely love it. The quilting in this bag is so beautiful. I love it so much. And in here, I am so excited to be using this yarn. I received this yarn from Adriana, and as a gift, it is some nomadic yarns in the Burrow colorway on the Trusty sock base, which is 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. And I've just started these, so I haven't made a huge amount of progress on them yet. But I'm knitting another pair of broken ribbed socks like I did with the Christmas socks I showed you. I absolutely love the colors in these socks, and as I mentioned last time that I'm so ready for fall. I'm so excited that it's September, and I thought it was the perfect time to finally knit up this yarn that I've had in my stash for a couple of years now. She sent this to me in a beautiful gift that she sent with a few different yarns, and then she also sent me some material to finish the fall themed quilt that I started 2 years ago that I still haven't finished because I need to quilt it and I just can't decide how I want to do that, and I've tried several different things, and I think what I really want to do is get it professionally quilted, and that's going to cost a lot of money, and I haven't made that plunge yet. So anyway, I absolutely love this yarn though. I'm so excited to be using it up. The colors in this are just so perfect for fall. I just love them so much. So I did a 2x2 ribbing, again cast on 64 stitches using US 0 2mm needles. And I did 2x2 ribbing for, I think it was about 18 rows or rounds until I got through one color stripe repeat. So it's 6 stripes, but they're pretty thin stripes. It only makes about 3 rounds, sometimes 4 rounds with each color, but it's a pretty narrow stripe pattern. And then on this orange one, I started the broken rib pattern. So I haven't gotten very far yet, but these are so much fun. I love them. So that's all that I have to share with you all this time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed watching. If you did, please feel free to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet. I would appreciate that so much. I hope you all are doing really well. Take care. Bye-bye.